You're listening to All Art is Quite Useless, where a group of mates chat about art. We talk about music, literature, films, paintings, and everything in between.
The podcast is also brought to you by Cavity Magazine, a magazine dedicated to bringing you the latest developments from the front lines of online writing. Find us on Twitter at Cavity Magazine and submit today.
Alternatively, you can get in touch by emailing at submissionscavmag@gmail.com. Submissionscavmag@gmail.com.
All art is quite useless.
Hello to you and welcome to the 7th instalment of All Art is Quite Useless. On today's episode we delve into the visceral world of Lee Hardcastle's YouTube channel. Lee creates incredibly realised claymation shorts on his channel, parodying the likes of 80s horror films to Simpsons couch gags, and also ambitious original shorts involving abused hamsters, burgers made from ghost meat, and aliens attempting to put babies in microwaves. Jack has made a playlist of the videos we watched for this week on the All Art is Quite Useless YouTube channel, so you can see for yourself the catalogue of shorts we discussed. I'll be back at the end to bollock on about something else, but for now, enjoy. Shut up.
Oh, no.
Literally shut up.
It's going to be horrible to edit.
Hello, shut up.
Oh, no, smoke a cigarette because cigarette smoking. That's not me.
Start record. There we go. Right. I'm going to say 1. Liv say 2. Jack say 3. Jamie say 4. Mix it up again. Why not? 1.
2.
3.
4.
Jeez.
That was smooth. That was probably the best one yet.
We're rolling.
It's only taken, 8 episodes for us to finally get the sync down?
I
Down the sink.
I think that should be a little added extra onto one of the episodes, just of all our...
I kept it in the last one, actually.
Oh, did you?
Just because you screwed it up, and I thought it was really funny. So I kept it right in.
Oh, I must have skipped that bit.
Right in there. Right.
Good proof listening, Lou.
No, I think I watched... Because I watched like a quarter of it like last week, and then I watched the rest of it today. But I think I skipped the bit today, so I just forgot. Yeah, that's my life story.
Thanks for that. Welcome to All Art is Quite Useless. This week we are discussing the short filmmaker and animator Lee Hardcastle, who is perhaps best well known for his Simpsons couch gags that are essentially parodies of contemporary horror films, and are very much not for children to watch. He's also been featured on the ABCs of Death with his feature T is for Toilet, and on his YouTube channel Lee Hardcastle there is a veritable smorgasbord of different horror-inspired claymations that are all very, very fun to watch, in my opinion. I chose this as the topic for this week's episode because we haven't really done a different sort of new media form before, and like YouTube is becoming a ever more prescient form of media consumption on our daily lives. So I thought it'd be interesting to see one of the most interesting creators and see what the rest of the pod think. So yeah, see what everyone else thought about it. Let's start with Jamie. What did you think to our boy Lee Hardcastle?
Hi, yeah. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed these. I thought they were extremely well made. I've kind of like, I remember being quite fascinated with stop motion animation when I was younger, and having like Wallace and Gromit DVDs and stuff like that, and watching behind the scenes just to see how they made them. And I've got so much respect for it as a like filmmaking technique, because it's such a long-winded and difficult way to do things, particularly now where you've got lots of alternatives in terms of like digital 3D animation to basically do the same thing. But that being said, and the things that I really like about stop motion, in particular clay animation, is the amount that you almost the maker like leaves their trace on it, like in seeing thumbprints and things like that on them, and those little blemishes I really enjoy for some reason. And that had all of that kind of thing. But these, I don't know why, I was kind of expecting them to look more amateurish. I don't know why I thought that. Maybe it was because they were on YouTube, which
Yeah.
yeah, which is a silly thing to think, but I have that thought nonetheless.
Tis a silly thought.
Tis a silly thought indeed. But it was quite the opposite. I was immediately struck by how incredibly well made they were. And of the playlist that you sent to me, Jack, I think like for the first couple, I wasn't really taking in too much of the actual content of the sketches, because I was just so impressed with them technically. And looking at how they were made, it wasn't in.
I did the exact same
thing. It wasn't
thing.
until some of the later ones that I actually kind of started taking in the actual story, or the actual what was going on outside of just the animation. So yeah, really, really enjoyed it.
It's interesting that you bring up like regarding the medium more than the actual content of the medium, because it is like that when you first start watching it, because you can't really quite get over what you're seeing. I think it's a bit like when you go and watch a play, and for the first sort of like 15-20 minutes you're very much aware that you're watching a play. Do you know what I mean? Like you're aware of the conceit, you're aware of the stage and the actors rehearsed that, like spouting lines that they've rehearsed for 100+ hours. It's a bit like that, where you're watching even something as simple as like a character's arm moving. Your brain is immediately saying to yourself, that took ages to do. This isn't a real arm that's moving. And maybe comparing it to like what you've seen visually done on film with real people. But then I think there's a certain point where it clicks and you take it for granted, and then you can enjoy the content that precedes, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's actually an interesting observation that you made there.
Yeah, it takes an insane amount of patience and I think love for the craft, because you can kind of, I don't know, I imagine that you can get quite bogged down in the detail as you're doing these things and forget about the bigger picture. So to be able to have the kind of time and foresight that you need to do this kind of thing, I've just got huge amounts of respect for it.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk a lot about the craft later on. Liv, what did you think?
I thought it was so sick. Like, genuinely. I watched the first one, and I basically just watched it in the order that you made for playlist. So I watched it in that order, and I was immediately like, sick background music. I think that was the I can't remember what the title episode was called, but it was The Simpsons' most recent one.
Oh,
was that the catch gag?
What?
The sort of He-Man one.
It was the one with Ned.
Yeah, the knights and stuff.
Yeah. And I was like, sick music, and I was obviously immediately like, this looks amazing, and the stop animation is so impressive. Obviously I didn't really know what the fuck was going on, because that's actually the third installment of the Simpsons series, I believe, that he's done. So I checked out a very helpful YouTube comment that basically explained it all. And then the next one was the Reservoir Dogs Simpson one, which I was equally as obsessed with, because you guys know how much I like remakes of cool with cool music, and I just thought it was amazing. Yeah, it was just so impressive. Like Jamie was saying, like you do just sort of become enraptured with the making of it and how well he's done it all. And he's so good. I noticed he's so good at doing the facial expressions of the characters. I think there's one particular moment with Ned in the Simpsons one where he's just like looking at Marge when like Marge has got her fucking like hench muscles and he's just like, what have I created? And his facial expression is just so perfect. Yeah. I think those were my obvious favourite ones, and then I sort of was working my way down the list. I did skip a few, but I also loved the hamster hell one.
Yeah.
That was such a good narrative. I thought the story was so good. But yeah.
We'll talk about hamster hell in depth, but I think you're hitting on like a really interesting aspect to his style, which is like really realistic facial expressions for like something that is badly not realistic, and also like his comedic talent as well. Like as horrendous as the animations are, they're also hilarious. You know what I mean? Like there's some ghastly shit that happens
quite literally
in the animations. Yeah, quite literally, but they're also fucking hilarious. Like they're so funny.
The bit I found like really funny was in the Simpsons couch gag one where I think it's called You're Next.
Yeah.
And so you see them all get brutally murdered, and then they don't show Maggie's death, I guess.
Yeah.
To like sensitize it 'cause she's a baby, but then you just see like a bit of her head flying into the shot, and it's just like, oh my god.
That was the only moment where I thought it might have gone too far on all of these. Is the brutal murder of Maggie. I was just like,
yeah, but you don't see it, so it kind of makes it alright.
yeah.
Well,
it still happens though.
Louis, as a fellow Simpsons fanatic and other member of the podcast, what did you think to Lee Hardcastle's claymations?
Do you know what? I really wish I'd gone back and rewatched those Simpsons ones because, like Jamie said, it was kind of a sensory overload at first. I didn't quite know what to. Obviously, they're very impressive. I was just a bit like, whoa, there's so much to take in. And it was about 5 or 6 videos into the playlist that you created that I was really starting to get into them quite a lot more. And so I wished, after I'd watched them, I'd kind of gone back and watched the Simpsons ones. But the one out of the Simpsons ones, the one that said to me was the Reservoir Dogs one. One of the things that I found so impressive about the way these were made is the kind of internal physics they all have. Like, all of the characters feel like they have quite a lot of weight, and they all move around in a sort of ragdoll-like way, which I found really pleasing. I don't entirely know why, but I just thought it really adds something to the overall comedy and horror of the whole vibe that he's going for, that they all sort of flop around quite a lot, and it makes it all kind of horrible. But, like everyone here, I really enjoyed them. They were really, really creative, impressively made. I was really impressed by the lighting in some of them. I thought,
yes,
particularly in the Ghost Burger sort of episodic ones.
Yeah.
I thought some of the lighting in those, it's like, that's incredible that he's done it. It's like the claymation's one thing, but then to get the direction of other aspects of it as well as he has is also so impressive. But yeah, the videos that stood out the most to me were Ghost Burger. I loved Ghost Burger. That got some proper belly laughs out of me. Particularly the, oh man, call the plumber. It really got me. And You're the King of the Burgers also really got me.
Yeah, me too.
As mayor, I officially crown you King of the Burgers.
Hamster Hell was also brilliant. And Aliens putting the baby in a microwave was one of my favourites.
Alien put baby in microwave.
Again!
Baby in a microwave. The line in that one that got a proper belly laugh out of me was when he runs upstairs when the masturbating and goes, oh no, it's got a hand. And he runs to the next room, oh no, it's got 2 hands.
I love how like nonchalant he is about this massive alien. He's like, oh no, what a convenience.
Yeah, but it's happened before.
He finds the ray gun. Oh, I was looking for that.
Yeah.
Wonder where the bloody hell you were. It's great. Yeah, I thought it was sick. Honestly,
I knew you.
so good.
Thing is, I knew you guys would enjoy it because I honestly think it's impossible to not enjoy his animations. There's like a sadistic glee that you get from watching them. Do you know what I mean? It's like the same enjoyment you get from watching a really violent horror film where people just get hacked to pieces, but the tone is not serious at all. It's a little bit like, do you remember when we watched Death by Temptation, Louis?
What a film!
What a film!
Stunning film.
Absolutely hilarious. People just die like constantly in that film.
Everyone dies in the exact same scene of being lured back to the succubus's house.
Yeah, but like,
it's such a good film.
But
I
this-
recommend that film to anyone.
but this has absolutely like far superior characters than anything in Death by Temptation.
Look. Hey, we had a good time, right? So, I assume that you're a big girl and that you're taking something. So just get an abortion. What's the big deal? Honey, you're groveling. That's very unattractive. Just dump the kid and we can kick it again, all right? Hey, I'll even pay for it. Listen, you send me the bill and my check will be in the mail. Honey, I gotta run. Gotta go. Ciao, baby.
Should we talk about Ghost Burger for a bit? Because I think Ghost Burger is.
I felt like that was the highlight.
Like the
of
longest
I felt
continuing
like that's
narrative of the ones in that playlist.
the headline.
Since it's because I know it's his biggest project to date, and there is a full version of it which is 20 minutes long, uncut, that you can find on his channel. That's essentially his feature length. So we can talk about that for a bit and use that as a sort of jumping off point for his other projects. But assuming you've already watched Ghost Burger and you're listening to this, then you know the general plot. The lad from Tees for Toilet moves in for a bit with his cousin and his uncle who runs a burger shop, and they're fell on hard times. Then there's a ghost in his house. He accidentally kills a ghost. They hide the ghost's body in the fridge where his dad keeps the meat. They mince it, and then his dad serves it. Turns out ghost burgers are really popular. So his dad's like, lad, we need more ghost meat. And then there's a happy-go-lucky journey involved with that adventure. These two teenagers go on, and they basically hunt down all these ghosts and use the meat for the burgers. They get into shenanigans along the way, and it ends in a royal bloodbath.
It was such a good payoff.
I thought,
that finale episode, just
yeah,
compared to because you watch in the way that you structured the playlists, you kind of know that he's quite violent in his direction.
yeah,
And it goes about 5 episodes without being too crazily violent. And you just know that like it's gonna reach that bloodbath at some point, and when it does, what are you doing? Recording the podcast, you swung.
Pardon the technical difficulties.
You get a towel.
Has he seen them?
all right. Do you want to start working on the podcast, maybe?
Yeah, have him on. Come on, David.
David's
Well,
a Lee
that gives me a good
Hardcastle
chance
fan.
to open up my next beer.
Even though he's like restricted to, well, I say restrict, even though he uses the medium of claymation exclusively, which I think does a disservice, not to him, because anyone who knows anything about filmmaking knows that doing claymation is probably the most difficult in terms of pure focus and concentration, because it's just you with plasticine, and you have to take one frame every moment of every second is like considered, whereas most filmmakers just roll for a few minutes and then cut up what they get. So it doesn't. It's innately impressive, but I think what elevates Lee Hardcastle is how good he is at action choreography. He's
absolutely
so fucking good. And like, I try and I think of stuff. I try and think of stuff that's as impressive in terms of action that it is in a more traditional medium. The only other thing I can think of that's as impressive is like something like The Raid, where it's like insane kinetic fight scenes and like mental choreography. You can only achieve something as like physically affecting as that, and even maybe more so in like the medium of claymation. I think like the end of Ghostburger, that shootout with all the ghosts it's just mind bending. I think.
What I guess that's what I kind of meant by the sort of physicality and physics of the whole of his work that becomes so pivotal, because when it does get so violent, it becomes so visceral and real.
Mm-hmm.
Considering it's a kind of animation, it's so the physicality goes a long way to making you to help breaking down the wall of that animation to make it feel like it is actually happening. I feel like the Reservoir Dogs Simpsons couch gag was the moment where I first realised that, was that you see everything go wrong in that, and it felt like, like every time.
I think what is so impressive about it was the use of gore in like stop motion animation. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Yeah. The use of gore, because it's like this really traditional cinema form, which is like almost as old as cinema itself. Yeah, gore. I'm guessing I'm not like I don't have a big knowledge of stop motion animation cinematic history, but I'm guessing the gore usage is pretty low. And it was so impressive and interesting to see the way he like created the violence of the scenes. And that was when I was really like, how the fuck does he make that? Like, he crafts that with his own hands. How does he do that? And it makes it look so like disgusting but also amazing at the same time. Like, that was the most impressive thing.
You could tell that there was like incredible and meticulous amounts of effort that went into planning these, particularly some of the longer form ones like Ghostburger. The amount that each sort of sequence had been carefully considered, and even through like the intros of some of those, you could see where the plot was going eventually. He like let it all in. It wasn't like you know, there's no kind of space for improvisation or ad-libbing anything here. It's all incredibly carefully planned, and even more so actually during the filming, having to follow through with all of that and to be able to pull it off in a realistic and believable way.
Yeah.
I think that it also complements how good a writer he is, because even though you spent ages with claymations, your efforts are only going to get you maybe like 1/100th of the time that you put into it. So like you can spend an entire day filming 2 seconds worth of filming. So that means you have to basically like adapt your stories and your narrative to that time frame. So when you watch Ghostburger, everything happens really, really quickly. It's only about 20 minutes in total, but there's enough stuff in there that like it could fill a feature length, like 90 minutes, if it was in a more traditional medium. But because of the nature of claymation, because everything takes so long to do, then you have to be a really skilled writer in order to like condense everything down, like character development, plot development, setting up and paying off stuff, all the traditional stuff we think of in stories. You have to condense it all right down to a fraction of what it normally takes. And so even though he's a really talented animator and artist, he's also a really, really good writer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the characters are really good in Ghostburger.
I think they're really great.
I was so on board for that on the adventure. I also love the opening credits of Ghost World of each episode.
I love
It gets across what that story is so perfectly within about 5 seconds. I think it's perfect.
I love the way it points to future stuff as well, and as you watch more, that opening becomes more contextual each time you watch it. It's great.
Yeah, I think the music was done by USA Nails, that like drowned out opening chord guitar that you hear at the beginning. It's so punky, and like there's a definite like punk spirit to his style, I think, as well. Do you think that you could enjoy his work if you weren't already into horror?
Yeah.
I think you could enjoy the technical aspects. I was thinking when I was watching it today, I had originally said, "Oh, Dad, maybe you'd quite like to watch this animated with me." I didn't realise just how horror focused it was going to be. So I did end up watching it alone. I was just thinking, I don't think my dad would have been down for the sheer violence of every single one of these shorts. I think he would have been a bit like, "Oh my."
It does deal in like, he's a student of like the 80s horror, 80s American horror cinema. Like,
it comes to the front when he does his thing video.
I love that.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
the Frozen thing video.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? I mean, you can tell that John Carpenter has been a massive influence on him. Same with like Sam Raimi as well. David Cronenberg, like loads of others, like proper like old school, but like those giants of horror cinema. Back when horror was allowed to be cool. You can tell he's just like obsessed with that little tiny window of cinema history, and that's kind of, that energy comes through so much. And it does it in a way that, like, I think modern nostalgia shills try and like sell us, like people who aren't 80s kids, a vision of the 80s that we never experienced, but that like pop culture tells us about. Stuff like Stranger Things, you know? Like we think of the 80s in like those terms kind of thing, like that's what the 80s has become. Whereas like he could very easily go for that like cheap, anachronistic style, but he just takes the best elements of it and then recontextualizes it in a modern context. Like an example is with The Simpsons, marrying The Simpsons with extreme violence and late 80s, early 90s like violent crime films. Do you know what I mean? It's very inventive with the things that are already existing.
One of the things that I found particularly impressive was in that thing Frozen video, where it's the blood test scene from The Thing, but with claymation Frozen characters.
Just
I was like, this works on this exact same level that the source material works. I still felt tense like I do when I watch The Thing.
Yeah.
And they're doing the blood test. Like, but it's so dumb. I'm watching Elsa like tied to a chair and stuff. But it still works. It's like, it's so impressive that I get that same guttural feeling that I do when I watch The Thing and I see it like burst out of someone and all the legs fly around the room and blood go all along the walls. I'm like, this works on the exact same level, but he's just recontextualized it for a new generation. I just thought that was just such a wonderful thing.
I think
I think that's a credit to the medium. Sorry, go on, Jimmy.
That's all right. I was gonna say, like, I think one of the maybe the more difficult things to permeate, other than kind of the violence and horror aspects, is maybe the editing. Like we were saying at the beginning, how it's so breakneck and fast paced, which I think does work in its favor. But when you watch those first few, you're kind of taken unawares by it, and it is quite a stark way to be introduced to them. But yeah, that being said, it still works to each of the actual sketches' effect, and the way that he manages to condense those into those really short, fast-paced, edited scenes without it becoming too overloaded or confusing. It's really good. But that was the only other thing, other than like the extreme violence, that I think may be off-putting to people experiencing it for the first time.
The fast-paced editing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
think I'd broadly agree with
I don't
that.
think it's bad by any respect, but just that as an introduction to his work, it can be quite, stark.
The thing is, though, I think that works really well with the YouTube medium because you are literally you're entirely in control of your viewing of it. It's not like when you're watching a film and you don't want to get up to pause it, or it sort of ruins the mood. Like, you're very relaxed when you're watching it. It's very leisurely. So I think the fast-paced nature of it does work. Like, if you miss something, you can literally just like jump back in 2 seconds, and it doesn't taint your viewing of it whatsoever.
Picking this, I knew that it was going to go down fairly well because you didn't have to have a massive time investment. You could just watch like an episode, like every so often, like a short video whenever you felt like it. Because every episode, it never exceeds like 5 minutes, except the uncut version of Ghost Burger. So you could basically just pick up any Lee Hardcastle video, like when you're waiting for a cup of tea. You know what I mean? Like,
I've learned from that mistake. Never again will I suggest a 3-hour-long film.
Not that this is an antidote to that. Sorry, Louis, what were you going to say, mate?
It just the fast editing pace kind of reminded me of when I watch Much Dank videos. I don't know if you guys ever seen any Much Dank videos, but I adore his stuff. I think some of the stuff he comes up with is genius. But you really have to concentrate quite hard because the way in which he edits is so, breakneck pace that you've got to be as on the ball as he was when he edited it.
Yeah, well, this became Lee Hardcastle stuff on YouTube became popular the same sort of era that do you remember montage parodies?
Mm-hmm.
So like,
I don't think I do.
The like people like Snipers and Pyrocynical and people like that were making like these parodies of Call of Duty montage videos where they take like some random video and like meme it, like put the COD hit markers on and like the
I know what you mean, the glasses.
Yeah, the sunglasses and shit.
Yeah, they're funny.
I think the COD hit markers is one of my favourite recurring meme things ever. I was watching some of YMS's Adam and Pals watch 13 Reasons Why season 3. They always put hit markers on when people touch each other, and it always gets me.
Shout out to Adam and Pals. It's one of the best web series.
I love their stuff. It's so good.
But Lee Hardcastle, I say became popular. I discovered it around a similar time. It was when he got interviewed by IGN UK, the IGN UK podcast, in like 2012, 2013, sometime like that. And I listened to it, and I'd never seen any of his videos before, but he was really, really like interesting to listen to. I YouTubed Lee Hardcastle, like went on his channel, and like he had this wealth of 2-minute videos, 1-minute videos, all that stuff, and I was like, oh great, I don't have to commit to any of this. I can just like dip my toe in, and then you dip your toe in, and if you're like into action or horror or like sort of like, sounds weird saying it, but classic cinema in any way, then you kind of get something out of it, and I got a massive amount out of it because it was just like fucking fun.
The thing is, I want to you were like, do you think people who aren't into horror will like him? But I would not consider myself into horror except in the most casual sense.
Yeah.
But it was just something about the way he makes. He's just got this artistry, which I think is so, he's able to convey such like emotional. It's so weird because of the nature of his videos, but certain aspects really are emotional. Like he really connects on an emotive level.
It helps build into the flippancy of a lot of the videos as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sort of like an irreverent nature to some of them.
Yeah.
Because they're paired with such strange emotions sometimes. That kind of adds an extra layer of hilarity.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just excellent cinema making. Like if you're interested in cinema or, animation or just good editing, good music, like interesting production, then you'll probably get a lot of value from it.
I think it helps that there are a lot of useful and accessible references in it. Like we were talking about the scenes where they recreate like the Evil Dead 2 or the Thing scene, or even like the Frozen characters and the Simpsons characters within those sketches. There's stuff that even if you're not familiar with like some of the like deeper horror or gore inspirations in this or references, you can at least get those big pop culture ones.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I definitely agree. He like marrying the obscure with the mainstream in a really perverse way. Like, definitely one of the selling aspects of his channel, I think.
It's like obviously Tarantino is like a huge influence and inspiration for his work, and it's quite interesting because he sort of does what Tarantino does in the sense that he's just a massive like cinema nerd creating cinema. And obviously you get all these like cool pop culture references that sort of everyone will understand, but then you get the more niche ones as well, which I guess it gives you the dedicated listeners that way.
And that's what I was on when I was watching Ghost Burger again, and I looked out for references, and to be fair, there's a few. There's not as many as I would have thought would have been in, which is kind of a good thing, I think, because
I think that's why I like Ghost Burger probably most out of all the videos, is because it felt more like a clearer vision from Lee Hardcastle.
Yeah, exactly.
I kept thinking that it would be really sick if he did an episode of Inside Number 9.
I think
I just felt like I was thinking I don't think I've ever seen an animated episode of Inside Number 9.
Do some little clay
like
versions of Reece Shearsmith and Steve
exactly.
Pemberton.
It would be brilliant. I think it would really suit the style.
He's like a contractor for creativity. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that brings me on to one of the things I really wanted to discuss. Is, do you know if it was the Doom one? Was that like a paid promotion thing? Was it?
I didn't even think of that one as being a paid promotion when I saw it. But the one that I realised, that it wasn't until the end that I realised, was the Alton Towers one that was in the playlist.
No, the Thorpe Park one.
Oh, was it Thorpe Park? I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
good marketing there was. You forgot. And
so good that I forgot. But yeah.
Alton Towers is way better than Thorpe Park, just saying.
Whoa Whoa now.
If it makes you feel better, Jamie, I also have no idea what the difference is between the two places.
Yeah. But the way that video was basically integrated into his own style, and it wasn't until about 2/3 of the way through the video that I even realised it was a paid promotion.
Yeah.
I think that's like the mark of like someone who's properly creative with their work, is when they get given like a brief like that, but can still find a way to incorporate it into their style and make it a part of their existing content without it seeming like jarring, or watching through a playlist like that, it's standing out really obviously as being this paid promotion that was described by the company.
So I've gone on to leehardcastle.com. So he's got a list of his clients. There's 20th Century Fox, Orion Pictures, Momentum Pictures, Bethesda Europe, Doom, Skyrim, Rick and Morty, Thought Park, Square Enix, - Hitman Absolution. So I think...
So probably, actually.
I think it's probable that both the Doom trailers were a paid promotion. I didn't see any of them promoted anywhere. That may be because I wasn't in the right Google Analytics mind web bubble.
The algorithm
so I didn't
wasn't
get
right.
it. Yeah, the algorithm hadn't taken my DNA yet. So
you hadn't had the coronavirus vaccine, which will activate by the 5G towers and Bill Gates' nanobots.
my blood wasn't magnetized yet. So
one of the things I wanted to bring up was that even in his paid promotions, he's pretty versatile, and I was somehow, in your playlist, Doom was kind of near the top. I was like, that makes sense. As I got through, I was like, wait a minute, he did a video for a Sufjan Stevens song?
Yeah. Wow.
It's like, what?
I threw that in for you indie kids.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
And it worked.
Big up.
And what delicious bone that was that you threw for us.
Yeah, I was baffled by that. I was like, wait, is this an actual song by Sufjan Stevens? And I went into the description and was like, oh, okay, cool. Sorry, Liv, what are you saying?
It was a good song. I quite enjoyed it.
I say on this podcast, I always just have mind blanks. Not Shaun of the Dead, but the other one.
No.
Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz, yeah. The Thought Park one, it's kind of got Hot Fuzz comedy vibes, don't you think?
Well, he's got he mimics Edgar Wright's editing style sometimes.
Yeah, I
where
thought
it's
that.
Quick cuts to close-ups a lot.
Yeah.
In Ghost
Burger, when the burger's being assembled.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, What they were assembling the Ghost Burger. It was.
I didn't think that, but now that you say it, that is.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
I was getting those vibes quite strongly.
Also,
from the Thought Park one.
the Evil. Did you guys watch the Evil Dead 2 one?
Did, yes.
Yeah, that made me laugh. I don't know why. I wasn't that into. I was like, oh yeah, it's just Evil Dead 2. But then halfway through, I was just like, these are cats. I don't know why the cats suddenly really.
The fact that they can't talk.
It was when one of them got sucked underneath the floorboards, and we're just going. I thought that was the funniest.
It was a bit after he assembled the wrist
the chainsaw.
Yeah, and he delivers the line, and he just goes meow meow.
It made me really want to watch Evil Dead 2 again.
That speaks as well. When we were saying earlier about the amount that he can condense into such a short space of time, he basically does the Evil Dead 2 in about 2 minutes, and it's got
everything in
scenes
it.
Yeah.
It reminded me of I don't know if this was affiliated with Weeble's stuff. I don't remember that website. Early 2000s, mid 2000s website called Weeble Stuff that did Salad Fingers, Badger.
Oh, was it like Newgrounds kind of thing?
That sort of thing, yeah. I don't know if it was part of them, but there was this series that I remember. It might have been early days of YouTube called Rabbits Reenact, and it was a famous pop culture film or whatever. And it would be condensed into 2 minutes, but every character was a rabbit. So I remember there was one for Saw, The Ring, Titanic, all sorts of films, and it would just be... It was kind of the same sort of thing, but rather than cats, they were rabbits, but these looked better than the ones from the 2000s. It reminded me quite a lot of that.
Yeah, so that sort of pre-meme age where you take an innocent creation and then put it into all these... very pop culture-y circumstances and parody it kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think there's definitely
not that I understood any of the pop culture references at that age. Not that I was allowed to see The Ring or Saw.
Should we talk about Hamster Hell?
Oh, wow. No, mommy.
because I think
Yes.
we've all watched that,
Please.
and we all have. I mean,
It's horrible.
You have
So
to-
horrible.
Hamster Hell is like, it's weird, right? And I have a little bit of a theory on. I think that Lee Hardcastle was raised Catholic and and feels really, really guilty about having been to a friend's house and him having a hamster.
I can
I think-
relate.
I think that he has like an inbuilt like Catholic guilt that's like prying away at his brain, or at least at the time he did, and then
Jack's got
making
his Catholic radar out.
I do. I got my Kadar out.
Kadar.
And I think I think Hamster Hell was like him exercising his guilt by like materializing the awful things that children can do to small animals.
Yeah.
This reminded me of in first year at uni. I remember going to like a prees or a party to the flat opposite mine, round Elliot's flat. Shout out to Elliot if you're listening. Definitely not.
Shout out to
if
Elliot.
he is.
Let's
I
do
went
the
to his
ale
flat
trail,
for a
boys.
Friend
party.
of the cast.
Friend of the cast. And I can't remember who in their flat, but they had a pet hamster in their flat.
Oh God, do I want to hear
And
the story?
I went around for a prees and I was scared of
late.
animals. I'm not much better now, but I'm like, I don't really want too much. I was like kind of nervous. It's a socially anxious setting anyway, prees in the first year with a bunch of people you don't really know that well. But then there's this hamster on a table that comes right towards my end.
Why is there a hamster on the table?
And it's looking over the edge of the table. And I'm like, it's definitely going to fall off.
Oh, for God's sake.
It's definitely going to go off the table. I should definitely catch it. And it went over the edge.
Aw.
I just
watched it.
watched it.
You animal.
And everyone went, oh! And I was like, oh man.
Was it alright? They can survive drops, I think.
Didn't see that coming.
I think it was okay, but I just remember thinking, that was definitely on me to catch that for me.
No, it wasn't, Louis, because that hamster should never have been out.
Yeah, that is sad.
It wasn't.
I shouldn't have been out.
It wasn't on you. But maybe this is more about Louis's guilt than Lee Hardcastle's guilt.
To be honest, I felt like there was some mild animal cruelty on when two of our very close friends of the podcast had the hamster in third year at uni. I was a bit like, now it's just
Tequila the hamster. We won't name and shame the owners, but
it's
Tequila
like-
the hamster could not have been treated well.
Put it this way, I wasn't surprised when it died at a year old. I mean, we shouldn't laugh.
Oh, how the children ate well that night.
Peter are going to be on this. At least we might get a few more listeners.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, everyone can relate to mild animal abuse as children. Like, we were literally...
I was 18, mate. I don't think I could justify mine.
Yeah, I mean, if you're...
And neither can the parents of Tequila the hamster.
The thing is, though, we've all encountered hamsters.
Hamsters are the most abusable animals.
We've never experienced life from a hamster's perspective. What?
And the award for most
Until-
abusable animal goes to...
Well, what Lee Hardcastle manages to do so well is like craft a whole narrative
Yeah.
completely silently, more or less,
Why am I hooked on these hamsters? Like, they're so
without
pretty.
any facial expression as well, because they don't obviously like hamsters don't emote in real life, so they don't emote
Yeah.
in the claymation. So it's literally just these black dots that are staring out in space, and it's like, oh fuck. Like it, but it changes. What's that cinematic experiment that they did? It was like you place 3 different emotions next to the same facial expression, and the facial expression doesn't change. But what the facial expression signifies is representative of what it's meant to be looking at. Do you know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about?
I think I know what you mean. So it's like they'll show them something scary, and essentially it's the same reaction for them all. But when they ask an audience member, you know, what do you think that they were acting or pretending to be in each of these scenes, they would say like
Different
they
emotions.
looked fearful or that they found
Yeah.
it funny.
Yeah, exactly.
I know
yeah,
what you mean.
yeah.
I have heard of that before.
So it's kind of like that, where like the context changes what the hamster is emoting.
Yeah.
The hamster is emoting. And also, because it's an animal, like, it doesn't have the same, like, ways of expressing itself or the same sort of ethical judgment as us, so we don't fully understand what it's doing. But you just feel the worst after watching the video.
It is horrible, but it kind of is nice. I think if you're an animal lover, it sort of like confirms all your suspicions about what your hamster's like thoughts are when you're not looking.
How is it nice? The hamster eats its offspring.
Yeah, I know, but it's like
covered in blood.
The hamster has fear and happiness and a sense of freedom.
I've been to pets at home. I never saw that.
I think what it does more than anything is communicate how fucking rubbish children are at looking after animals.
You know what? After I watched that, I was like, I am never letting my kid have a hamster like in its room. Like, I think guinea pigs are okay because they're sort of big enough for a child to be aware that you can't just like mess around with it.
The kid never told its parents that he had a hamster. He kept it under the bed, and when he didn't know what to do with it, he just taped it up.
Yeah.
He didn't do any. He did nothing.
That's so gross.
He did nothing good.
That episode is horrible.
Where he like
when it gets stuck in the tape.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's so sad.
Oh god, it's so horrible. But then, like, it's not as damaging to watch that happen to a hamster than it is happen to a human. But then you can't help but project your human emotions onto it. Do you know what I mean?
I feel
which is like it's where the power comes from. The short, I think, is where does us empathizing with it as an animal and us just seeing it as like a nature documentary kind of begin. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, personally, I always feel more emotional when I watch bad things happen to animals because I think it's because they can't speak and they're so much more innocent than humans. And I think the fact that they can't convey their emotions through words just makes them so much more powerless.
The hamster's well cute as well.
Yeah, it is cute.
That makes it even worse.
Also, I've got the voiceovers he did for like the little boy. Obviously,
they were making me laugh.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's very Pingu vibes.
It's like I thought it was more like Angry Kid.
Yeah.
I loved the one that got the belly laugh out of me. It's like, I think it might have been the first episode when the mum comes and you see the waggling finger and he just goes, "No, mum."
Yeah. He's like, "No, mum." Yeah. So mumbly.
Did you notice that the model for that kid is the same kid in Tears for Toilet, who is the same kid in Ghost Burger?
Yeah.
So there's like a through line where that kid has gone through some trauma.
Which was the episode that had the Adam Buxton voiceover? I noticed he was on the credits for one. He does the outro voice.
He's in.
And I was like, I wondered why I knew this name. Because I think I'd heard Adam Buxton talk about Lee Hardcastle before.
Shitting hell. He.
Shit a brick, Michael.
No. Actually. But I was watching his shit today and I was like, oh my god, that's Adam Buxton, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why does everything link into everything? Within cells interlinked, within cells interlinked.
Elon Musk's baby.
It's like one of the things that we haven't talked about too much that I think is like a really through line in all of these sketches is the dark humour in each of the sketches. You got so much...
The jet is black.
Yeah, you got so much gruesome and disturbing imagery contrasted with like these bright little sparks of comedy that he interweaves through it. And I think it just adds such a brevity to it. Otherwise, some of them I think would be a lot more. I think the hamster one, without some of its comedic highlights in it, would.
It's a quite a grim story, isn't it?
Would be a lot more dour, I think, if it didn't have them. I think it's a lot better for it.
Yeah, I think that the dark humor is one of the aspects that keeps me coming back to it, because it's I don't know, like trying to explain humor is like impossible, really. Sort of subjective, but the first counterpoint is the fact that it's claymated, so it's innately not
through the form.
The fact that a lot of the voices are just Lee Hardcastle doing different pitches of different voices as well.
But all have vaguely the same accent, which I enjoyed quite a lot.
Yeah, well, everyone's from Leeds in the Lee Hardcastle canon. It's like with the alien one. It's like after he's just killed this enormous alien monster, then his wife comes home and it's like, alien try to put baby in microwave.
Oh crap! Aliens tried putting baby in the microwave again.
And then she's just like, again. And it's fucking hilarious. It's not funny because the aliens tried to fry this guy's baby alive, and like they're quite threatening.
I love that in the beginning of a sketch he's just like trying to explain civilization to the aliens, and it's like, that's fridge, it's microwave,
that's microwave, that's dishwasher,
it's washing machine.
Washing machine.
His first thought was
No, baby doesn't go in microwave.
when this intergalactic species arrives, he thinks, quick, I must tell them about the kitchen appliances.
Yeah.
It also breaks down a bit once you realise that they've been there before.
It's so domestic though. That like adds to the comedy of it. Like that's such a sort of thing.
When I watched that one, I couldn't stop thinking that when I was about 13 or whatever, discovering, like fully being able access to the internet, I was thinking, I would have loved this if I discovered this at about 13 years old. I would have shown this to every single mate of mine.
Yeah.
And it would have just been one of those YouTube videos in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen baby put in microwave? And I just know that all of my mates would have loved it. And there's a part of me that's a little bit sad. I was like, I'm a little bit older than maybe the target audience of this now. But it's just like, I'm still finding it funny. I just know that
You think?
that would have been peak age for me to discover this. Would have been about 13 years old. I would have absolutely adored it.
I remember going into school. I was a little bit older than I was like year 11. Like, try to get all of my friends into this. When you go home, type into YouTube the Hardcastle, and like only one of them did. And like we had a great laugh, me and that other friend. But everyone else was just like.
So you knew it around then, around year 11.
Yeah, because that's when I first listened to the IGN UK podcast where he got interviewed.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay. And then I checked him out.
Oh,
and
perfect.
I told my brother about it as well. So so he watched a load of it. So I had a point of reference at home to talk about it with. But none of my friends at school like gave a shit at all. I was like, mate, the claymation, it's amazing. No one gave a shit. It's so annoying.
But yeah, I would have loved. I love it now. To be fair, it's so great. It's so creative.
I was gonna say I think this does transcend the age limit kind of thing.
I wouldn't have got the Thing or Evil Dead references.
I wouldn't say 13 is the ideal age to watch this. Well, I know it's over 18, and that doesn't really mean anything on YouTube, but I don't know. I feel like it's our age is like the perfect age, like early mid-20s.
I think it's a good thing to watch if you haven't watched a lot of horror. You're looking to get into it because it's a really nice gateway into it. Because it's, even though it is really gory, it's quite light. It's quite light entertainment.
It feels like a better version, like a more well-produced version of the kind of stuff that I was watching on YouTube around that age anyway.
Yeah.
And this feels like the best version of that.
Yeah. That's what I mean by, like, when at the start I said I was assuming it was going to be more amateurish and less professional than it ends up looking, because the stuff that I'd seen from that was when I was younger, and kind of like some of the only comparable things I can think of are like
Lego Studios.
which most of them are. Yeah, exactly.
My nephews love watching those.
They've got their charm, and some of them are okay, but yeah, these are leagues above those. But yeah, and I think, like you were saying earlier, Jack, like what you assume to be some of like the intrinsic things with the form, it being a stop motion and also clay characters. There's like a certain amount of innocence that I think as a viewer you'll impose onto it because of what you've seen before. Some of like the most famous examples of it being like Aardman and stuff like that, which are all very family friendly and accessible in ways that this isn't necessarily, but you still kind of have that association in the back of your mind whilst you're watching it.
Yeah. But a moment that I think when you were saying about the innocence, you know, when it's the Simpsons couch gag, like the one where they all get murdered, and it's like Lisa stands up at the end and then she just holds her hands up and then fucking Chief Wiggum just blasts her in the head, and you just
like I said, I felt
so
like that was the
tragic,
only
though.
one that actually overstepped the mark a little bit. That was the only one out of all the videos I thought
that's the one.
Maybe it's gone a bit far.
Yeah, but then you get the comic relief.
Because I saw
of
like
the
no
ending.
charm in that one.
Yeah, but no, you do get the comic relief with the Simpsons tune blaring at the end, and it just like cuts away.
Louis, I kind of agree with you a little bit. Like, I don't think it went too far because I think that this is all fine. But I kind of agree with you in that, like, when I first watched it, I was like, does this guy hate The Simpsons or love The Simpsons? Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, it's something that I would have made if I could have done it, but also I don't know if
especially as well though, because I felt like it introduced elements that, you know, like you said already, me and you are such huge Simpsons fans, and it introduced elements that I always felt like were kind of like horrible to introduce to The Simpsons, like the bit when Marge just clutches Homer's inner thigh, and it's just a bit like, oh, that's a bit weird. It's like all the kids.
Yeah.
And then, like, lo and behold, that is the least of all your worries in that little vignette.
What I do want to say though is the Simpsons couch gags, they are continuations of each other, aren't they?
Well,
Are they?
They're in the same Simpsons universe. They're not like, they don't canonically follow from each other.
But isn't it that, like, this is what I've gathered from YouTube comments, so I guess it's all sort of speculation. But so obviously all the family gets murdered in the first one, and then in the second one Marge comes back and she gets the toaster, which is a time traveling object, and she's trying to like reverse it so that the family survive. Like as a continuation from the first one.
Well, it's only a time traveling object in the Treehouse of Horror, which is non-canonical.
That's true.
So,
well, yeah, but this is an entirely different.
I think you'd have to ask the creator.
It sounds like weirdos on the internet wanting to find connections.
I doubt that. Also, this is not canonical Simpsons, so
I know, but I'm talking about within the
Lee Hardcastle Simpsons
Hardcastle. Yeah, you know.
I don't.
I'd also like
have an objection
bring
to
up
it,
the fact that in that first video in the playlist, I'm pretty certain it plays the same audio effects of. No, I don't know what I can never remember what they're called, but those horrible. I don't know if it's Vine or TikTok guys that do the Simpsons videos of Marge with the horrible boggly eyes, and it's just going. Won't anyone crack with
Hurry!
Don't worry, sweetie. I'll come with you.
I swear they played the same sound effect. I was laughing so much immediately. It's the sound effect of Marge just shaking with sheer hatred. It gets me.
Uh-oh, it's Large Marge.
It's Large Simpson.
Oh, God.
And on that bombshell, it looks like we're wrapping up. We've gone over an hour.
Got that
and 5
magic
minutes now.
hour mark. Right.
That was a longie.
So I
peak.
don't know if anyone wants to rate out of 10.
Yeah.
YouTube
I don't
channel.
really want to.
It feels-
I don't want to, personally.
It feels hard, but
I'd rate him a 10 out of 10 because I love everything he does, but I don't want to impose that arbitrary numerical rating onto you guys.
Yeah, I'm not so
I'm gonna
into
abstain.
numerical shit.
I'm going to go for the same as Jack. I'm just going to say go watch his stuff. I'm not going to give it a numerical value, but just it's well worth a gander.
Yeah. We'll link his channel when we release the podcast.
Well, thank you for listening to the 7th episode of All Art is Quite Useless, and a big thanks to Jack for introducing us to Lee Hardcastle's work. If you haven't yet had a gander at his videos, then stop the pod right now because they really are spectacular. It's Olivia's pick next week, and she has chosen a couple of short stories. You Won't Hear My Name Anymore by Nathaniel Duggan, which is currently doing well on the CavMag site, and another short by Stephen Walsh called Shine Variants. These are quick reads, and the links to these will be in the description to this pod as always. And we look forward to gracing your eardrums sometime again soon. Ta-da!